And welcome back. Now I've got these two little tiny devices on my workbench here, and they're both more or less the same chip. Why have I got these SAM D21 devices on here blinking their little lights? Let's face it, the blink sketch is always good to have. But why am I even looking at the SAM D21 chip? I want to give a shout out to my sponsor JLC PCB, manufacturers of custom PCBs, made simple. One of their new features that's coming up shortly is their SMT assembly process. And their webpage contains a lot of information about what their capabilities are and some various very common facts. If you prepare your PCB using Easy EDA, you'll find that when you place components, you have the option of using their LCSC assembled catalogue. As you can see here, I've just chosen the IC that I'm going to be using in a future project, and it's come up as part of the LCSC assembled list. That means they can pick and place it for you on that board. If you can, try and use their basic list rather than the extended list, which means they'd have to change the components in the pick and place machine. Designing a board could not be easier using Easy EDA, and the fact it links into the JLC PCB website is going to make ordering an assembled SMT PCB an absolute breeze. Why don't you try them out today? But why am I even looking at the SAM D21 chip? And there's a very good reason for this. First of all, although we've come to love and know an awful lot about the 328P, as chips go, the architecture's pretty old hat, isn't it? Now, I love the 328P, don't get me wrong, and I've done so many videos on what you can do with it. It's great, and we can all still learn an awful lot about it. But the world moves on, and the SAM D21 is a much more capable chip. Let's think about the capabilities that it has got, for example. Let's take the one on the left here. This is from Seed Studio. Yeah, that's right. That's the one with a triple E in the middle. Seed Studio. Now, these were in high demand, actually, and I had to go on the waiting list, and they turned up a few days ago whilst I was in the middle of a really heavy head cold. I know, it just never stops, does it? So I had to delay looking at this, but I've had a quick look at it now, and I've had this one. This is an Adafruit Trinket M0. Don't get confused with the Adafruit Trinket without the M0, because that would be a tiny 85 on there. Now this is the M0. It's got a SAM D21 chip on it. Not quite as advanced as this. I think that's an E variant and this is a G variant. I don't think we need to bother about that. They're SAM D21s and they'll work just the same. So oh yes, big warning first. If you're going to play about with the SAM D21 chips, they are 3.3 volt tolerant. That is it. Do not connect up any external devices that are giving out 5 volts in any pin, or that'll be the end of your chip. Okay, or at least the port that you're connecting to. So that's the warning. Now, both these devices, I mean, they're pretty similar in size and the number of pins that they break out. So what is it they've got that makes them, well, special, and what sets them apart from the 328P? Well, firstly, remember that it's a modern design, and therefore they've managed to pack in an awful lot more into them. For example, their ARM Cortex M0, as I've sort of mentioned, they've got 256K of flash memory, 32K of SRAM, and 14 GPIOs on here. I haven't actually counted them, but yeah, I guess there must be. Obviously they're, shared. You can't use analog and digital on the same pin, but there's 14 available. So of those, it's got 11 analog, 11 digital, 10 of those are PMW capable. What did I say? PWM? Yes, PWM capable. And there's one DAC, so digital to analog as well. Okay, it's got an I2C, a UART, SPI as you'd expect, all the normal stuff. But the big thing about this is that it's USB-C. That little socket there is a USB-C, and it's just pure coincidence that I happen to have this cable that goes from a USB 3 to a USB-C. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to plug that in. So be very careful about this Seed Studio one, okay? You need a C-type connector. I don't know why. I think it's just because the world's moving over to the C type. And I must admit, it is a delight to be able to plug that in without worrying about which way it goes. Because sod's law is you always turn the USB micro or mini the wrong way around. It's just, one of those things. So not having to turn it round is a delight. But you do need a special cable. Now, give another couple of years, I don't suppose we'll have any of these sort of mini cables plugged into anything, and all phones are going to USB-C, aren't they, slowly? So USB-C is the new standard, and that's what the Seed Studio One does. Right, what else? Oh yes, it's got a couple of LEDs on there. I don't know what the other one's for, but I haven't discovered the other one. This one's got more. It's got one here, that's sort of a dual colour, plus that green one there, which might just be for power. And that flashing one there, that obviously is the built-in LED on pin 13, as is this one. Right, it's built-in on pin 13. Now the Adafruit one is very well documented and tells you everything you can do about it. But that's not the reason. I'm not just looking at the SAM D21 because it's a more capable chip. Not exactly anyway. If we hark back to a previous video of mine when we're talking about the new Arduino PRO IDE, now if you remember I did a video on that and I said it's 0.03, and within 2 days of me releasing that video, or as I released it, it went up to 0.04. Now it's gone up to 0.05, and the killer feature in it is that you can do in-circuit debugging, step-by-step, line-by-line debugging, as long as your board supports that. And currently, as far as I'm aware, without any additional hardware, the only one that supports it is the Arduino Zero, which also has a SAM D21 chip, hence why I was looking at these. So let's just have a look at the Arduino Zero, which is on its way at this very minute from Italy. Yeah, I know, Italy. Do I disinfect that packet before it turns up at my door, before I touch it? I don't know, it's a bit worrying, isn't it? Being a car owner, and I don't want to be a victim of the car owner virus, yeah, it's a little bit worrying. Anyway, it's winging its way with UPS to me, the Arduino Zero, but boy, it was eye-wateringly expensive for what it is, I think. Let's have a look at it. So this is the Arduino Zero, and as you can see, the cost there is not insignificant, but I'll reinvest that money that I'm getting from this channel into this, so I've ordered one. And the killer feature of it is that this board, and as far as I can tell it's only this board at the moment, has inbuilt debugging chips and features. In fact, if we scroll down a bit, we might come to that little bit. Right, so this is all part of the blurb on that page, and very interesting it is too. Tells you how much RAM it's got and so forth. But as we say here, one of the more important features is Atmel's embedded debugger, EDBG, right? So with that in mind, and remember this board is not new. This is released probably end of 2015, early 2016, so at least 4 years old. I don't know what people have been doing with this board up to now, apart from buying some very expensive debugging tools, hardware tools. I don't know, it's just been sitting there. But now that we know that this has got this inbuilt EDBG debugging capability, we can now have a look at the new Arduino PRO IDE, and I'll just show you the little video that comes in. It's only a few seconds long that we need to look at. This is the thing that I'm really keen, as are tens of thousands of other Arduino developers. Let's have a look. Now this is the video on the Arduino site itself, so you're watching a video in a video now, but it's a few seconds long, and it just shows you how the Arduino IDE debugger works. Well, I say works, I mean I've not got it working yet because I've got a board that supports it, but you can see that the slide out debug panel will appear from here, and they can put a couple of breakpoints on there indicated by a little red circle. So just watch this and we'll go through it a little bit later. So the first thing they're going to do is have the slide out panel. There it is, and that shows you variables and the state of what's happening. Then they put a couple of breakpoints on here and they run to that particular line when it goes yellow, and then they can move on to the next line, inspect the variables as you do it, and it just makes debugging so much easier. because what happens with Visual Studio, remember I've used Visual Studio for decades in my professional life as a coder, although they call us software engineers. Sounds better, doesn't it? Without that, I don't know how we'd ever debug some of the .NET stuff, and C# that we worked on, because you just cannot figure out what is going on, or more importantly, you cannot figure out what's going wrong until you get to that line in your code and you put a breakpoint on it. And you go, now show me this list here or that variable there, and you're going, of course, that's rubbish. No wonder it's not working. I've said it's wrongly, or you've forgotten to do something. It just brings a whole new meaning to the word debugging, rather than hundreds and hundreds of serial.print lines in our Arduino code. Okay, now let me just show you the next thing I've got here. So this is what triggered me to investigate a little bit further. Somebody's saying, look, show me how I can get this debugger working, because I can't. If I try and just do this on, say, something like the seed XIAO, I don't know how to pronounce that, ZAO or something, or indeed the trinket, it just goes, no, I can't debug that. There's nothing that I can talk to. Okay, so they go, well, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And what they've done in that video is connect to an Arduino Zero. So that's when I thought, I'd better order one of those at the eye-watering price that you've previously seen. Yeah, well, I'm hoping that's going to be delivered tomorrow. So it's a little bit late for this video because you're already watching it. But next week, I might be able to just give you a 5-minute demo of how that's going to work. Okay, so in the meantime, if you think, well, I want to get used to the SAM D21 chip and what it can do and how easy it is to code, let me show you an example of that I coded. Well, I coded it for both these little boards, but let's have a look at the Seed Studio one first. Right, this is the Arduino Pro IDE. Now I've got the actual theme set to black and white rather than the white one, just to protect my eyes a little bit. But I think you can read this pretty well, actually. So as you can see, it's still got the setup and the loop if you want it. I mean, sometimes I just put a main in there and ignore the setup and loop, but we'll stick to the standard stuff that everybody has come to know and love. So all this is pretty normal, apart from here you can see it says serial USB dot print line, not serial, because there's on the Arduino Zero, as you can see at the top it says Arduino Zero. I'm pretending mine's an Arduino Zero. There are 2 USB ports. One's a native USB port, and that gets plugged straight into the chip, the data plus and minus, and unless you're going to use a USB to serial converter, you probably won't want to use that unless you're plugging it into another device that can read it directly. We're going to use the programming port, and that is not therefore serial. They've called it now serial USB. Now on the Adafruit Trinket M0, they've done a little funny, that's a technical expression obviously, they've simply defined serial as serial USB, because the only port they've got on that little device, that one there, that device port there is the programming port. Okay, it's not the native one, it's the programming one. So they've just done a define, so you can continue to use serial.println in their particular case, but really we should be using serial USB and get used to that idea, because we're not using the native USB port. But apart from that, as you can see, it just does a flashy 3 times and does this little print thing here. Is it plugged in? Let me have a look. Oh yes, there we are. Look, there's the print that I'm doing. Well, that's it. This loop is just counting up as it goes along, and on the workbench you can probably see it. Just flashy. It's this one we're looking at. So you can see that one does a double blink. This one here does a triple blink. So that must have been the latest one I've downloaded. Whatever. It's easy to program, and I've fooled the IDE into saying this is a 0, and of course it's not, but it's the same underlying SAM D21 chip, so all is well. Pretty easy, don't you think? Now, if you want to experiment with the SAM D21 chip and you've never used it, I mean, to be quite honest, there's not a lot of difference in coding, apart from that serial USB thing I showed you, to that of an Arduino. It just runs a lot quicker. It runs at 48 megahertz, not 16. It's got loads of flash. Hasn't got any EEPROM though. what it does is actually steal some of that flash memory, that huge flash memory, and go, I'm going to put this to one side as though it were flash. Now, there's lots of articles about the seed, well, it's called Arduino here. I wish I knew how to pronounce that. The Chinese always have these funny words, don't they? Like Huawei phones, or was it Huawei phones, or whatever. Zhao, I suppose you pronounce that out. I don't know. Anyway, there's lots of articles about it, telling you what it can do and how to use it, more to the point. The seed website itself also goes along, and look, it's only $4.90, and I think, are they in stock at this very minute? Oh no, look, it says here pre-order. Although I have seen them in stock somewhere. Perhaps they sell out real quick, because for $4.90 for that little tiny board that I got, it'll enable you to do everything you need to do on the SAM D21 and really experiment. I mean, they do call it a development module, I think, don't they? Well, somewhere it says development module. I mean, there's only 11 pins broken out, but it's probably enough to do everything you need to do just to experiment with it. What else have they got? Oh, they get one now. Yes. Ah, now this one, look, says in stock. So whether it's changed since last night, or whether this is just a different shop or something from the Seed Studio, I don't know. But anyway, it's probably worth thinking about, isn't it? And no, I'm not an affiliate of Seed Studio, so nothing comes my way. Okay. Here's another little article about the SAM D21. It says Arduino. Well, you know, take that with a pinch of salt. I mean, it's nothing to do with Arduino as such, is it? But you do get used to the idea of the Arduino Zero SAM D21, all the capabilities, and this explains it quite nicely. All this stuff that I'm going through here, I'll put all the links in my video description. Am I going to have a GitHub for this? Possibly, if you want to have a look at this code very quickly. Well, you'll see if there's a GitHub or not. The Adafruit one is really well documented, but when it talks about debugging the SAM D21, well, that's a little bit old now, because if you do want to debug it as is, I think it shows you, yeah, some of the equipment you'll need, like this one here. Look, I mean, yeah, if you're a professional, you know, software house, or a commercial establishment, you might well spend that sort of money. But you know, the likes of you and me are never going to spend that. We'll use the Arduino PRO IDE with built-in debugging on the Arduino Zero. I think it's the way to go for now. The idea, of course, is that you could develop with the Arduino Zero and its debugging tools, get it all up and running, and go, yeah, that's it, all nicely done, and then just move that code over to, say, a Seed Studio Zhao, or even the Adafruit Trinket. I mean, it's the same chip. It should run as it should do, unless you need lots more pins, of course, in which case you'll have to find a different SAM D21 board. And there are a lot of Chinese clones now appearing. They don't have the 2 ports, though. They only have the 1 port, which is the programmer's port. It might be enough, but they won't have the debugging stuff on there. So you could get it working on Arduino Zero, then just plug in the new board, upload it to that, and it will continue running, because you don't need to debug anymore. Or at least the bugs, all the big bugs will have gone, and you might have a couple of little tweaks, and that's about it. Yeah, cool. So here's one, for example, from Bangood. It's a SAM D21 M0 board, and it's £11.74. Now, I know nothing about this board because I haven't got one. You can see that it's only got 1 port there, plus a reset switch, which incidentally the Seed Studio one there doesn't have a reset switch. It's got 2 tiny little pads that it says you've got to short together with a pair of tweezers or something. I don't understand that. Anyway, so that's the one from Bangood. Now, it says Wemos on there, but apparently it's not Wemos. It's RoboShop. Apparently, it's all a bit confusing who's actually making this and who's using what brand name. But it is a SAM D21 board. It's got all the pins and everything on there. I might, in fact, get hold of one of these, but it will take a little while. Even if I up the shipping to the 4 to 9 days, it's still going to take, you know, a couple of weeks to get to me by the time they've shipped it out and everything. But it would be interesting, wouldn't it, to download a program that's working on the Zero and that we've debugged, and then stick it on this board and make sure it does exactly the same thing, perhaps with I2C running or something. Yeah, so that's another little interesting thing there. Here's another article from May 2018, so it's quite old really, that tells you about well, almost that board that we just saw from Bangood. So whether this article will apply to that, I've yet to find out. I mean, there's so much going on at the moment. And finally, here's a nice little article about the Trinket M0. As I say, it's not the AT-Tiny85, it is the M0 version. So that's good to read if you're interested in wearables and things, because that's really what the Trinket is aiming at. Although, of course, you can use it for whatever you want. But Adafruit themselves say, you know, if you need it battery powered, this is the one to use, because it's got little tiny solderable pads, try and say that quickly, on the back, so you can just connect up a battery and things. Okay, cool. Right, back to the workbench. Just before we do that, it's Arduino Day on March the 21st, and there are a number of worldwide events taking place to celebrate the fact that it's Arduino Day. 15th birthday, so 15 years. Can you imagine that, since the Arduino came out in well, I remember it sort of vaguely being touted in 2008, which isn't 15 years ago. I guess that's when it first got a bit of traction in the community. But I've not been using Arduinos that long, actually, so yeah, it's interesting. Now, what you can do is go onto this page. I'll put the link down below, of course. And there's a map. Here we are, look. And it tells you where these events are taking place. And as you see, there's an awful lot in Europe. Remarkably few in the States. It's a bit unfortunate, the timing, isn't it? Because of the car owners virus. These events might in fact get cancelled now, but as you can see, they're all over the place, and you can zoom in on this map and just find out exactly where they are. It's quite nice. There's a lot in South America and a few in North America. So have a look at this, and if you're interested in going to that and celebrating it, they do say on this website, they go, look, we understand this problem with the car owner virus. You may not want to congregate at this very time, so you can postpone it to later in the year, which may well happen. I mean, look at today, we just had the announcement that Italy is frankly locked down to the nth degree. No shops can open unless you're a supermarket, or what else can open up? Supermarket and a chemist. That's it. Everything else is shut down. So I guess they will not be celebrating it, which is ironic, isn't it, given that Arduino started and continues in Italy. Shame, really. There we are. Right, that's all I've got to say about the SAM D21 at the moment. As I say, when the Arduino Zero comes along tomorrow, I'll do my best to connect it all up and get that debugging working line by line. That would be absolutely fantastic. The question in my mind, though, is, okay, the Arduino Zero has got this EDB facility, EDBG facility built in so we can debug, but what about all the rest of them? Say I did really want to debug something on here. Is that even possible? Or do they say, well, no, you've got to use special pins for one, and then you've got to use special hardware? I think all this will come out in due course, exactly what we need, whether it's even feasible or whether it's only for professional software houses and things. But at least the Arduino Zero, if that's the only way to do it, and all right, €40 is not an impulse purchase, but if that's the only way to debug stuff, if you've got a substantial project and serial.print just does not meet your needs, then as I say, I think we can develop on that and then transport it and upload it to one of these little things, and it should just all work. Time will tell. Now, I was going to talk to you a little bit more about the smartphone charger. Oh yeah, I've renamed it. Intelligent wouldn't fit. Let me show you my phone and you'll see what I mean. That's the icon that you can see there where it says smart phone charger, because the word intelligent wouldn't fit across there, so I've had to change that. Now, that caused me an awful lot of trouble. Not this code here that you're looking at. That says unable to connect because I've already connected once. Let's just kill that. Right, so this is the one that was previously connected, and it's all working now. The problem I had that I've also sorted out is the Bluetooth transmission. I'll explain more about that when the project itself is up and running, but basically the two bits of the transmission, namely the time and then the data, they were being sort of confused and they were put round the wrong way. And my poor little Arduino program is going, what is this you're sending me? It's all sorted out now, it's all working great. I've got the the dual MOSFET here, the SI4599. Now somebody alerted me to the fact there's an alternative to this that's actually cheaper. There we are, there's the comment. I've ordered some, but of course it's going to take 6 weeks to get to me. I will try those out separately, but in the meantime I'll use this just for playing about with the power. As I say, at the moment it's a little bit difficult for me to actually get down and connect these things up. Certainly soldering is out of the question at the moment. But when I do, I'll come back with a fully fledged project, really. Simple. I've decided to keep it simple, 2 or 3 LEDs just so connection status. And why I've changed from an HC06, which is what you saw last time, to an HC05 over here. And the trouble I had getting that HC05 to work. Whew. Thank goodness for Martin Curry's website, there it is, who documents these things in the nth degree and got me onto the right track. But boy, was that HC05 an awkward little bugger. It really was. So yeah, but the reason I wanted that HC05, well, you're going to have to wait to the future project, all right, until it's all done and dusted, and you'll see why then. Right, I think we're going to call a halt there. Remember, all the links will be down below, as hopefully will be your comments about everything we've discussed today. I love reading your comments. And yeah, that's probably all about it. I don't know if I'm going to put anything up in the GitHub this week. There's nothing really to put up there. I don't think that Blink program warrants a whole GitHub just for that. So great. I'll look forward to hearing from you. Don't forget, if you liked this, tell YouTube you liked it and give it a good old thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next video. I hope you're finding these videos useful and interesting. There are plenty more videos to choose, and a couple are shown below. And if you'd like to subscribe to this channel, just click on my picture below and enjoy the rest of the videos. Thanks for watching.